Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about a not so fun topic, but hopefully these 5 tips will just be quick and easy for you to do. I've always been pretty good with money, I've always been good with budgeting, so today I'm going to show you 5 tips on how to budget like a boss. I like that catchy title, so I'm quite proud of myself for that one. Number 1 is you need to write it all out. You need a physical form of your budget. You can't just be thinking about it off the top of your head, because you will lose track of it, you will forget about it and ignore it probably. I like to do mine in my bullet journal. So this is my bullet journal and my daily to-do list, weekly planner, all that kind of stuff. My budget always goes in there. It's as simple as writing out your income, writing out what you must spend money on, so bills, food, travel, everything else like that. Writing out how much you want to save, and then budgeting accordingly for the rest. So all of the important stuff is out of the way, and then whatever's left over is your money to decide where that goes. So we can talk about that in a minute, but you can portion it out. So I portion out with my spending money. I have my gym, social events, anything else like that, food, maybe it's someone's birthday that month so you want to buy them a gift, maybe it's a new season so you want to go shopping for new clothes. Whatever it is, I personally like to portion out my leftover money to make sure that each thing is accounted for and I can afford each thing. And I'm also going to have a figure to track throughout the month to make sure I'm not overspending. My second step is savings go out with bills. So you wouldn't leave your rent to pay at the end of the month, even if you could. I think most rent would go out as a direct debit at the start of the month, but let's say your rent went out at the end of the month, you wouldn't wait till the end of the month and hope that you had some money left over to pay your rent. That money would be set aside and you would not spend it, because you know that you need to pay your rent money. And you have to treat your savings with the same respect and importance. You know, if you want to spend all of your surplus income and you don't want to save, that's absolutely fine. Everyone's lifestyle choices are different, but if you are someone who finds that you end up struggling for money at the end of the month, or you want certain things but you can't seem to afford them ever, try putting your savings aside at the start of the month. You can set it up as a direct debit so it's treated in exactly the same way as your rent or mortgage or other bills. Or I'm self-employed, so sometimes I earn a little bit more one month. If I earn a little bit more, I like to put a little bit more savings away. So you can either do it on an individual month by month basis or set it up if you want a certain amount going in each month. My third step, and this is more of a tip overall, but it's just get comfortable with your numbers and know your numbers. This is of course part of writing out a budget, but I also think it's important to see your budget in action. So get your banking app and look at it at least once a week. If you have a lot of ingoings and outgoings, then check it once every day and just make sure everything's on track, make sure everything's going out accordingly, make sure there's nothing unaccounted for, and just make sure you're aligned with that initial budget that you set at the start of the month. So many people just bury their heads in the sand and act like their bank account doesn't exist, and they just magically use this card and then things appear and then somehow it gets paid for. They don't know if they have any money left, they could be in their overdraft, whatever, but they just never check their bank statement because they're so scared. And you have to just get in the habit of doing it. Act on what you see. So if you have overspent one week, then just make sure you cut back the next week to accordingly align your budget again, to make sure that, you know, if you go out one weekend and you spend £50 over your budget or whatever, then just make sure you don't go out the next weekend, or you save that money by getting a takeaway or instead of going to a restaurant or whatever else it is. Just make sure you're conscious of your bank statement. Number 4 is to get real about your spending habits. And again, I'm not shaming anyone at all. I think everyone's lifestyle choices are completely different and that's absolutely fine. I just think it's important to know and have that knowledge to empower yourself and to make informed decisions about your finances. So you have to know how much you're spending on certain things in order to align that with your budget and how much you want to save. Take a look at the previous months in your bank statements and add up roughly how much you spend on different things. So this is really useful for budgeting because that means your budget can account for the things you enjoy spending money on, but you're just keeping it in check and making sure you're not going too overboard with it. So I know that I spend a certain amount of money on petrol, for example. So I always make sure I have that lump sum set aside because I know that I need that money for petrol. You might look at your bank statements and find that you spend a certain amount on Starbucks every week going to work or whatever else. Just add those things up and get those rough figures and categories for different things all written down, all written out. I know again it can be scary, but you just have to get completely informed and have an overview of your spending habits and where the money is trickling out of your bank account. And my 5th and final tip is to find small ways to save. I assume that most people coming to this video are either looking to get more organised with their budgeting. I hope this has helped you, but I also know many people will want to maybe curb overspending, maybe have a little bit extra surplus income, whether that's to top up their savings, increase how much they're putting away. And don't underestimate like saving a £5 here and there because it all adds up, especially if it comes down to like a daily thing or a weekly thing. Even buying a reusable coffee mug and using that to fill up to go to work instead of going to Starbucks every day, you can still get that same kind of vibe of enjoying a cup of coffee in the morning, but it's going to be cheaper. But that might not be for you. You might genuinely love buying your Starbucks and find there is something about Starbucks coffee that is so amazing. What I'm trying to say is find your favourite treats, figure out the things that you're not willing to negotiate on. So your non-negotiable, I enjoy these things so much. So for me, that might be my gym membership and going out with friends and Adam. So I know that those things are worth putting the money away for and budgeting for and accounting for in my budget. And I'm not going to scrimp and save and try and cut those things out. However, I personally am not that bothered about buying fancy coffee drinks. So I don't mind bringing a reusable mug. I hate buying bottled water, so I always have a reusable bottle of water with me. There are so many ways in your day, in your week, in your month that you can be saving on. Find all those small little ways. Switch providers of phones and insurance and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you're always on top of that. You will be surprised at how much you can put aside from just being sensible, getting a little bit serious once a month and doing your monthly budget. So I hope these tips have helped you out. I hope they weren't too boring. Let me know what other money and finance related videos you want to see, because I try to stay really organised with all that kind of stuff. Please subscribe to my channel for 3 videos a week. Lots of positive lifestyle, self-care, personal development stuff, along with more businessy side, productivity, time management, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for another video in a few days. Thanks so much for watching this video and I will see you then. Bye!